Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Sesh. It's that's Elizabeth Cotton singing Shake Sugaree. We're here today to start off, to kind of kick off our Saturday Sesh sessions. We did one of these just with me the last time, and we're here with a special guest today, so we'll tell you about that in just a second. But my name is Trey Reckling. I'm the person who's instructed many of your classes with the Academy of Cannabis Science, and glad to have you all as students. So if you couldn't make it today, that's fine. We're going to record this session, so it'll be online for everybody from here on out. But wanted to turn to our special guest and change our camera view here. And there we go.
Hi, everybody. Wait, okay, here. Wait, where am I looking? Hang on.
This is Mary White. And Mary, thanks for joining us, and not just for joining us, but hosting us in your home today.
Ta-da! Well, thank you, Trey. I'm gonna look there. Is that the right place?
That's right.
Okay, I want to tell y'all, I just finished teaching a class on cannabis tinctures, and thanks to Trey, I get to talk to you guys about that a little bit. But yeah, today was tinctures class, right. And I had 5 people. And the cool thing about all of that is I'm getting a lot of people now from other states, and a lot of people who have taken a lot of regular Western medicine stuff, and now they're ready to do something different. So, yay, pot.
and Mary is one of the first people I knew in the cannabis industry when we moved up here a few years ago. And so I'm really grateful to have friends like this, smart friends who know what's going on, who continue to learn, and have a great interest in teaching. And so thank you.
Oh, dude.
And so why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Like, what's your background? Have you always done cooking with cannabis?
It's been a soap opera. Okay, let's see. Well, I was on the radio for about 25 years and have done a lot of, film and commercials and stuff like that, right? But also during that time, I developed a couple of pretty serious physical conditions. And long, boring story short, I was on, before I met you, I was on 5 different medications and a cane. Let me tell y'all, if you want to get laid regular, a cane is not your friend. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, and along about, was it 2011? I had used cannabis, of course, in high school, back when it was ditchweed, and it was just like, ha, we're high. And then I did have an unfortunate, like in 1971, I ate some pot brownies at work, and they were terrible. So I never ate cannabis until 2011. And I really needed to get off all these pills. I mean, I was turning into like that creepy person that looks in your medicine cabinet.
Yeah, but glad you're off that stuff.
Yeah. And ever since that half a cookie all those years ago, I've been using cannabis initially, to get rid of my pain and stuff. And now I'm like ready to go. So now I just have like my maintenance dose, and the rest is just for fun.
Well, that's great. And so, although we've been teaching cannabis classes, we haven't gotten a whole lot into cooking. So I thought this would be a good introduction, since I know that none of you online right now are in, well, you're not in one of our cooking with cannabis classes, but that is in development, and we'll talk about that later. I want to stop and say, hey, welcome to Tracy and to Jackie. What we're going to do now, we're going to talk for a little bit, and then we're going to give you plenty of opportunity to ask questions, but thank you for joining us. Mary, why don't you, you said you weren't always in cannabis, you were on the radio, and then you started cooking with cannabis, and now you teach people to do the same.
Right.
What was the first, you said the first cannabis treat you tried was pot brownies. How was it?
Oh, Jesus. Well, like I say, that was 1970, right? And back in the olden times, I mean, I'm sure someone knew about decarbing and stuff, but we didn't. It was one of those things where you just put a bunch of pot in the brownies and baked it. So then you're eating like crunchy, weird plant material. But again, no dosage guidelines, none of that. And because of that, I got way too high. And I didn't know back then what I know now. And it's weird when you get too high. Now I know if you get too high, you just eat a few peppercorns or get some CBD on board, right? But after that, I mean, I still smoked it occasionally, but I didn't never eat it. But I was really tired of all those pills. And after radio ended, I was teaching cooking because I am a chef-ish, right? And I was like, wait a minute. my son-in-law at the time, brilliant engineer guy, and he baked all freaking day, right? I'm like, no, wait a minute, he's really smart and he's got a good job and he's handling his shit. So anyway, it worked, and it's really worked. You guys, I was on all those medications and a cane. I had a frozen shoulder, artificial hip, I mean, I could go on and on, right? And now I'm fine. So it really is medicine. And the fact that you get gloriously high and horny and stuff, it's like it's a good side effect.
And you don't have to get high, of course.
No.
And we'll talk about cooking with CBD. And in fact, you have a lot more information about that.
Yeah.
And not only has it helped you, but it's helped not a person in your life, but someone very special in your life too.
Well, it has helped a lot of friends of mine, but it's really helped my cat. Hugo J. Treadwell, of the Tacoma Treadwell family. But I love him, he's my baby. And if he'd be here, but he's totally antisocial. But a year and a half ago, the vet said, he's gonna die. We're giving him 2 weeks. He had all his cancer all through his mouth and his throat and everything. They said, here's some gabapentin, bye-bye. And I'm like, no. Because I had read some of the suppressed evidence around medical cannabis and THC. In the 40s, they were saying that THC stops tumor growth. I'm like, well, okay. Anyway, long story, but the cat is fine. He's perfectly fine. He's my fluffy baby, and he sleeps with me every night. I love him. But, I don't want to be the crazy lady that says cannabis cures cancer, but I will tell you anecdotally, for us, a very strong THC tincture, little tiny drop 3 times a day, no cancer.
And for us, we had a senior dog, Sweet Georgia Brown, that traveled with us across the country.
Yeah.
And she had a major stroke that would have killed her. And some of our students have heard this story, but it would have killed her. And the veterinarian said, look, he said, I've got some medicine, but it might not be as good as what you have, because he knew that I was in the cannabis industry.
Yeah. And
so we, once again, tried tincture. Tried experimentally, got her too high a couple times, and that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it brought her back, and within 2 days, she was herself. I mean, we had to kind of do some training to teach her how to turn around in corners. She would kind of get in the corner and get confused.
That happens to me too.
But she got better, and she lived. She was still an old senior dog, but she lived another 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And would not have without the help. So
exactly.
Once again, these are anecdotal stories, but they're important stories, and they're worth consideration. So and if something's going on in your life with someone you love, we want we want our friends and family and students to be aware that there may be good options.
Exactly.
And that's always the asterisk we put by these statements. We know we need a lot more research, but there's a tremendous amount of research out there, and this cannabis is probably the most studied drug and substance plant in the world, maybe outside of garlic.
Really?
If you think about it, garlic's medicinal use has gone way back as well.
Right.
But anyway, we do have, every time someone says, but we need more research, remember, we have a tremendous amount of research, and yes we need more, but it's not a total unknown.
No, well, and seriously, like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, I didn't know from terpenes, stuff like that, the things that we're learning. Yeah, it's just, there's so much.
And unfortunately, in Washington State, and today we welcome students not just from Washington State, our students at Seattle Central, but also our students at UNLV in Las Vegas, Nevada, and the whole Nevada area. So welcome to both groups. We know that in Washington you can't home grow, so it makes it more expensive if you always have to buy somebody else's product. Now, if you're a patient, you can, and that's how I benefit. And you see behind us some of Mary's homegrown, beautiful stuff that she works with through the year. So she'll grow a nice amount in the summertime and then stockpile for her classes throughout the year. We were just talking about that. If people in Nevada, you can also home grow. If you're living in Nevada and not growing, we encourage you to check it out or to think about it, because even as someone told me the other day, they say, I just don't have a green thumb. Learn. It's as difficult as checking in on the plant, keeping it moist. Jackie's got a nice what you got there?
It looks like an orchid.
Orchids?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Beautiful.
And so if you could grow orchids particularly that can be temperamental, you can grow cannabis.
Oh, hell
And
yes.
so
It's a weed.
so we encourage everybody to think about it. Mary, talk to us about on that line. Talk to us a little bit about ingredients, because we know you're not going to get a better product at the end than what you start with.
True. Yeah. One thing I really focus on in my cookbooks and in my classes is demystifying cannabis, you guys. I don't know if you've seen Bong Appetit on TV. It's a great show, but it makes cooking with cannabis seem like this real chefy thing, and it's not. When you get a few basics, you know, the fat extractions, how to make tinctures, how to do lotion, it's this glorious, all-encompassing product that you can do so many things with. But don't be using cheap crap. And I mean, buy the best butter you can afford, buy the best olive oil. When you're cooking anyway, buy the best thing you can afford, because honestly, you know you're worth it. If you can buy organic and afford that, do that, okay? The issue that you're gonna run into, it's not really an issue. The challenge when you cook with cannabis is the flavor, because these glorious plant products are very high in terpenes and in flavor and smell molecules, but they're also really high in what I like to call the flavor that tastes like it came out of a horse's butt. Okay, I hate to say that sometimes cannabis preparations can taste a lot like chlorophyll. Okay, so the best thing to do is, if you can, always use bud in your preparations, because the leaves, of course, have more chlorophyll. So if you use a lot of shake, realize that you're going to have to really up your flavorings, because it's going to taste, you know, vegetal. That's the more civilized word. Okay. So use bud whenever you can, because that's going to work. Use the best products you can. And remember that, I mean, as well as you're doing something recreational, this is also a medical thing, and you're ingesting what you're making. So if you are concerned about your health in any way, and you're using cannabis for that, be smart. Don't, you know, use tincture on, you know, some cheap crap. Do yourself a favor and use the good stuff. And also, with those flavor profiles, you need to be aware that if a recipe, like a regular recipe, okay, and in that recipe it uses 4 tablespoons of butter, and you're going to substitute pot butter, cannabis butter, then look at those other seasonings. You might need more lemon, maybe more pepper. You want to amplify your seasonings to kind of make sure that it doesn't get too vegetal. Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. And I know I've made some things, and whether brownies or cookies or something, and my husband and I would talk about it. We're like, gosh, what's a flavor that masks that flavor? But what goes a long way is when you decarb your weed and in the oven. And if you don't know what we mean about decarb, it's basically just toasting it at a certain temperature for a certain amount of time. It changes the chemical composure of the molecule. It makes it bioavailable to us. You have to break off a carbon to make it bind, to make that key fit in the lock. Yeah. When you do it, it also can give it a little bit toastier flavor. So it's a little less green, a little bit more, I don't know if nutty is the flavor.
Yeah, I think nutty, yeah.
And so that can take the edge off, and that's really good. And then, of course, ingredients like cinnamon and ginger and chocolate and some of your strong flavors that are often popular flavors anyway help to mask or at least mend that flavor so it's not so pungent.
Well, and I think too, Trey, that's where people tend to think of, you know, pot brownies or, you know, sweets. But I'm finding a lot of times, if you can get away from that sweet, there's some great savory stuff that can be done with cannabis, because that vegetal flavor actually translates, like in a curry, or I love it in meatloaf. We made medicated ketchup today in class.
Really?
Yeah, we made medicated ketchup, medicated sugar, y'all, medicated salt. Yeah, because I love not just food that's infused, but I love condiments. Right. Because then you have way more control. Right. Right? I do a medicated mayonnaise and a medicated mustard and a ketchup. Think of the possibilities in the summertime.
So if you don't, if you're visiting Mary's house and you grab a hot dog or a sandwich and you fix your sandwich up, you better ask twice.
Always ask.
And that's an important thing too. We want to make sure to protect
Oh yeah.
not just kids and animals, but people in our
Everybody.
family that don't anticipate that
Yeah.
what they just grabbed is medicated and high octane sort of thing.
Yeah.
So let's make sure, please label things because
Always.
those stories, you know, it's scary to be high when you didn't know
Right.
why you feel that way.
Yeah.
Also, here, let me.
What do you got?
Where did I put? Oh, right here.
Oh.
So once you can make good oil, I'm sorry, we got two cameras and I was looking at the wrong one. Once you can make good oil, then you don't have to have the calories, you know, except for the calories that might be in your butter. I prefer to use an unrefined coconut oil, and because I make capsules, so I've gotten a little fancier now. Have labels. I don't sell these. These are just for friends and family. We've given a lot to patients and taught a lot of people to use them. But once you do that, then you can make what is a typical, a typical capsule, and you can encapsulate those yourself in your kitchen for pennies on the dollar of what you would pay for, some other kind of medicine. And in our house, we have NSAID medicine, but we try not to touch it just because, and NSAID being aspirin, Tylenol, acetaminophen. This is safe for y'all. There's significant studies that tie those other kind of medicines to heart disease, to stroke, to bad stuff. Generally, the side effect of something like this might be too much, get you a little high, and I'd rather deal with that all day long. So once you can make the oils, consider you don't have to have the calories. So cooking with cannabis doesn't just mean for food stuff like you're saying.
Right.
So, the world is your oyster, and you just want to be kind of experimental and think outside the box, like with your sugars and your salts.
Yep.
These have really saved us. We don't have any kind of opiates in the house anymore.
Yeah, me too.
And so that makes me feel great, and I'm not giving somebody else my money for a product that's potentially deadly and certainly addictive.
Yeah.
And so, and then Mary mentioned tincture, salves, and oils. I know you got some set. There's an example of an oil.
This is actually an Everclear tincture.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And see how green it is? Because you use Everclear and decarbed cannabis, you put it in the freezer for an hour and then you shake it like a crazy person. This is what you get. And this is all the cannabinoids, a little bit of the chlorophyll. But this is how you make, all kind of things. This is stuff how you make the gummies, anything that needs evaporation. You can use an alcohol tincture, like the salts and sugar and stuff like that. This is good stuff.
And then you can make gummies. I know gummies are popular with people, and they're easy to travel with. You can also make red wine gummies. You can make champagne gummies. So if you like those flavors, that's a real, and the red wine especially helps to mask that flavor a little bit. Yeah. Mary teaches not just cooking with cannabis, but like she mentioned, lotions and salves.
Yeah, this is a cannabis balm that we make. Somebody used some. And we make a salve, a balm, and a lotion. The salve is what and I'm going to say, just for me, anecdotally, cured my frozen shoulder. Thank you. And this is in between. The balm is not as strong as the salve and stronger than the lotion. This is great on your feet at night.
Well, and I had a spot on my shoulder that I needed to see a dermatologist about. You just get a spot, you're like, that's not right.
Yeah.
I need professional opinion.
Yeah.
So Tandy was traveling and I was using that and I was just putting it on the spot, and he came back after a week and he said, "Oh, you saw a dermatologist?" And he was like, "I told you so." And I was like, "I didn't see a dermatologist." He's like, "It's gone."
Yeah.
Once again, they're anecdotal stories, but it's worth a try, and it's not going to hurt you if you use good clean product. And then a tincture.
Yeah, this is our glycerin tincture, again, that we made today. I'm giving this to Trey to take home, but this is the stuff that helped my cat, anecdotally. But again, it's that beautiful, thick glycerin, right? And it's the great thing about the glycerin tincture, it is sweet because it's vegetable glycerin. And so you get a sweetness and then you get cannabis. But that's great to put in hot tea or you guys, for pancakes, do half tincture and half syrup.
Oh, really?
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay.
You'll be high all day. It's going to be great. But point is, those liquid, the tinctures, you can do a ton of stuff with them.
And then like Mary's doing, or maybe not exactly, tincture is, and like we say a lot of times in class, our great grandmothers probably knew a lot more about cannabis
Yep.
than we do.
Yep.
And tincture was a more homeopathic, old-timey type of way to take a medicine.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're alcohol tinctures, and alcohol tinctures can be really, really rough and hard to keep in your mouth.
Yeah.
I've tried some and they'll just burn
Yes.
your mouth up. But a glycerin tincture, you're gonna put it under your tongue,
Uh-huh.
allow it to sit for, you're gonna talk funny for about a minute,
Uh-huh.
but you want it to absorb into those mucous membranes, and there's so many underneath your tongue. And the taste is not bad. Like you said, the
Yeah.
glycerin itself has a pretty sweet flavor.
Mhm.
And then you swallow it or rinse it down and it's gone. And your absorption rate is better than in a regular edible,
Mhm.
or than almost anything except for
Yeah.
maybe suppository. And then the activation time is a lot more quick than an edible too, because you're not having to pass through your stomach before it's absorbed into your bloodstream. It's going right there.
Yeah.
So we've been talking for a while.
Yeah.
How about if we turn and see if either Jackie or Tracy have a question? Hold on, I've got you all on mute. I apologize. That was just to reduce our feedback. Good to see you.
Hi.
How you doing?
I wrote out my question.
Oh, okay. You did. In the pain course, there was a discussion about ingesting raw cannabis. Can you talk about that? Yes. Thanks, Jackie. We have a friend here, and I would advise you to look up a web page called Butterfly Sessions. And a friend of ours named Pam.
Mhm.
And Pam has a number of conditions, and she's very public about them, and you'll see on her website.
Yeah.
She also had, before it was Butterfly Sessions, it was, I'm going to remember, and I'll post it here in the feed. But Pam consumes a tremendous amount of raw cannabis.
Wow.
And so we're talking fresh fan leaves. So once again, if you're growing or you have access to fresh leaves,
Mhm.
if you're growing, a great thing to do with your trim is just as soon as you cut it, bag it in a Ziploc while it's fresh and clean, and put it in your freezer till you're ready to use it. Then it's ready for smoothies and
Yeah.
any number of things. You really want to grind it well because the fiber, but she'll put it right into a smoothie and then consume it that way. Because it's not decarbed, then it's not bioavailable in the same way that
Right.
Products like you're making are, or
Right.
I'm making are. And so you can consume 10 times the amount
Sure.
without getting high. And so you have the benefit of all those cannabinoids. We know, there's a point of less return on that sort of thing. But for her, she's found tremendous relief in pain,
Mhm.
in inflammation, in her mobility, in her stomach upset.
Yeah.
And I've got another friend who's got severe Crohn's, and somebody
Yeah.
too, and
Yeah.
somebody who just, he gets real nervous to leave the house even sometimes, and it leads to social and anxiety issues.
Yeah.
And so for him, raw cannabis has just been the thing. It's helped his stomach to settle down. He has fewer cramps.
But I'm sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt. But now, because it isn't decarbed, are you going to still get like CBD and stuff?
Oh, absolutely. And the plant naturally has THCA.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
CBDA, those are the acidic forms of the molecule.
Right.
And those are still good to go. Those are still actively working. And we know from class and
Mhm.
y'all studying that there are over 100 cannabinoids in this plant. We
Right.
generally talk about 2 because the 2 have been studied. That's THC, our rock star,
Mhm.
that causes people to get high, and that's what's gained the celebrity.
Right.
But CBD, everybody knows, has come
Mhm.
on like its own rock star, and a lot of people, especially seniors, like the idea sometimes that they don't have to get a high. And I say not just seniors, but that's been one of the most vocal groups. And then other
Yeah.
people who need to work and
Right.
do stuff during the day. It doesn't, it doesn't give them any kind of couch lock or social
Yeah.
anxiety and that sort of thing.
Well, and I think it's a good point too. Like, and you mentioned earlier, Trey, that you don't have to get high. You can have the medical and physical benefits of cannabis without being all goofy and listening to the Grateful Dead and stuff. It's just that usually when my work day is done, I want to get baked. But in terms of all day, I might use like a tiny bit of medicated honey in my tea.
Okay.
Right, just to have an analgesic effect. And I'm going to try your capsules because those look really good. But it isn't about getting high, okay? It's about getting well. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And like you said earlier too, our grandmas, our great grandmas, 1,000 years ago, they probably knew all this shit. We're just figuring it out. But
And let me turn back to Jackie, if you don't mind.
yeah.
Jackie,
Sorry,
have you tried raw cannabis, or have you had opportunity? Sometimes that's just, it doesn't sell they don't have it in the store, so it's sometimes hard to access.
Yeah, that's what I was just asking in my question. How can I source it if I don't grow it myself? And by the way, my orchids are beautiful, but they're silk.
Oh. You could have taken credit for that.
Yeah.
And I know Jackie, and we've spoken. I know she's on it, and she's a serious student on the subject.
Oh, cool.
And
Thanks,
so I say that because we've spoken more than me with some other students.
Yeah.
But definitely try it. It's one of those flavors that might not be your thing at first. But also you can balance how much is in there. I don't think I've ever made a smoothie and that's the primary ingredient. We put here in Seattle, we have a tremendous amount of blackberries to the point that they're a problem.
It's a weed.
A noxious weed. They'll tear up the foundation of your house.
Yeah.
If you've ever read Where'd You Go, Bernadette?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it ruined their home. But I picked 20 pounds of blackberries in the park a couple of years ago, and they've been smoothies forever. And so your mangoes, your blackberries, those really kind of helped you to mask.
Where can you get raw?
If you don't grow it, I would say make friends with somebody who's a home grower.
Yeah.
And because now in Washington State, you're allowed, well, I say that with a caveat, you're allowed to share, you're only supposed to share stuff you've bought in the store. But if you know a home grower, it's very likely he or she has trim left over.
Yep.
Especially if they're growing a fair amount of plants. And then you can work out a deal or find, just cook them dinner in exchange for whatever you do. Yeah. But a friend will be a friend if you don't know anybody, let's talk. We know, there are quite a few patients around. But it is definitely worth a try.
Yeah.
Tracy, did your square lit up there for a second? I wanted to.
I keep losing connection, so I keep calling back. Are you able to hear me just fine?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm just having fun listening to you guys talk. So I honestly don't have any questions right now. I'm just enjoying the conversation.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you both for being here today.
Yeah. Tracy, have you cooked with cannabis at all? Do you make edibles?
Yes, and I had mentioned to Trey in a previous conversation that for me, I've only used concentrate, mostly because with flour, I'd be concerned about figuring out exactly how much I'm using, and it's so much easier with the concentrate. I'm working with a gram, divide the gram, into milligrams, so then I know. But with flour, scary for me.
No, absolutely, and it's easy to overdo it, especially the first time when you've got a piece of something you cooked and you don't know.
I have to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because Tracy, that's an issue, okay? And I worked on it a lot. One thing that I always tell my students too is that we're coming from Western medicine, right? Where everything is exactly measured and you know what you're taking.
I know.
This is much more, right? You have to kind of feel how your body's doing. But this is a book I wrote about 1.5 years ago. Everyday Mary J, because I'm Mary J. White. But it does explain in here about how to calculate those dosages and how to get it to a more predictable level in case you ever run out of concentrates and you have some bug, Yeah. I don't want you to be scared.
I'll work on that.
Okay.
And like we might have talked about, Magical Butter has a really good machine. We both own a Magical Butter machine. It's basically a glamorized crock pot.
Yeah.
That mine was a little loud, and I told them, I was like, hey, this thing is scaring us because it's quiet and then it's grinding sound. And they said, we'll send it back. So I sent it back. They're going to send me a new one. So
good.
So kudos to Magical Butter for being responding to a customer concern. But with something like that, you can make these oils in a crock pot very easily, or in a double boiler or something like that. With a machine like this, it's going to cost you a little money, but the ease of use is pretty phenomenal. It's kind of a set it and forget it kind of thing. And then you can really up your production. So, I think I can make 5 or 6 cups at a time.
Right.
The general recipe is an ounce of cannabis, to a pound of whatever you're infusing into, whether a butter or something else.
Oh.
I've avoided butter just because butter turns rancid and only holds for so long. It tastes good and it cooks good. So if you know you're gonna make cookies, you know, it's I don't, for flavor, butter is hard to beat. But for the capsules, for instance, I don't want to have to refrigerate these. I want them to have a good shelf life.
Right.
And so we still keep anything that's infused, like our tinctures and stuff in the fridge. Just because.
Well, I'm going to argue with you a little about the butter.
Oh yeah, please.
Because the thing I found, because I make a lot of it, you know, but the thing I found, it will not turn or get moldy or anything as long as your container and everything around the butter is really clean and dry.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because there are some things that you just got to have butter. I make, I make these, you guys, Tracy, especially, you got to try these. But I make these olives that are covered in a cheese pastry crust that's filled with THC. And they're so good, right? Point is, you know, that medicated infused butter really can be your friend. Tracy, if you can figure out, you know, the milligrams. Yeah. And like you were saying, it's usually, if you can figure in your mind 100 milligrams per gram, that almost always will keep you in a real safe zone. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, and you just said 100. Did you mean 1,000?
No.
100 milligrams. I thought one
per gram. Yeah. Trust me.
Huh. No, I believe you. I guess because I thought 1 gram equals 1,000 milligrams.
Oh. Well,
so
it does.
Gram...
No, it does. I'm talking about the amount of THC in a
got it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. So my mistake. So in a gram of cannabis, you're going to get 100 milligrams.
Thank you. Okay, got it. I'm with you now.
And of course, that depends on your strain, and you might have a high CBD strain, or cultivar.
Right.
So that'll change the equation a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
But I've learned a tremendous amount working with you, and it's, you know, it's really talk about demystifying it. There's nothing like doing it, and you know, you might screw up, but nobody gets hurt. You want to make sure that it's with your stuff, that not with your highest grade bud. Yeah. But like right here in Washington State, you can buy an ounce of cannabis off the shelf that's been tested for less than $100 in a lot of cases. It might not be what you would smoke. Right. It's not going to be your best tasting. But if you're cooking, to the point, I know you always want the best quality, but it doesn't have to be cost prohibitive. No, and I think some people look at, they're like, oh my gosh, I got to use a whole ounce, and an ounce is $300 sometimes. Don't start there. Practice with something else. Exactly. And but it's, you know, if you can cook anything else, or if you can follow a recipe, even it's exactly. You know, it's always. You surprise me because, like, with the ketchups and the condiments, you're always, because I think you get bored if you're cooking the same thing all the time. Yeah. And so Mary's wonderful. You know, we'll get a call, and she's like, "Look on your porch," and so she'll surprise us sometimes after a class and bring us some goodies, and you know, it's great. We'll put them in the freezer and pop them out, like with your brownies or your chocolate cupcakes. So Mary makes these great chocolate cupcakes that put them in the freezer, but you pop them out, put them in the microwave for like 20 seconds. And it is the best treat with coffee or some other, or going to sleep at night. Once again, you don't have to have the calories, but it's a nice, tasty option.
And you know, Tracy, we're talking a little bit about mistakes. And I don't know, Tracy, or if you guys have tried this, but when I was working on my CBD cookbook, I made you know, you just trying stuff out, right? So I thought, I'll infuse heavy cream, and then I'll do whipped cream or whatever. Oh my God, you guys, that first batch of cream, yeah. I mean, it was disgusting. It was terrible. Right. But then you go, okay, and then you have to work with the ratios and stuff like that. But it's not brain surgery. Like you say, nobody died. It was some cream and some hemp, you know? But I encourage you guys to experiment. I got a lot of recipes out. I got 2 cookbooks. I always say, try the recipe like it's written, and then play with it the second time, you know.
Jackie or Tracy, any questions at this point? I'm gonna keep asking Mary a couple questions, but want to check in with you all.
Well,
No, I don't have any questions. Oh,
I
you go.
don't
Sorry,
either.
Jackie.
I have to go actually.
Oh, do you?
It's okay,
Okay.
Jackie.
Yeah.
Well, we're about to wrap up, and the whole thing's recorded, and I'll send the link out.
Great. I guess I do have a question. I make rather than glycerin, I make my tincture with oil.
Okay.
With avocado oil.
Oh,
And
good.
Oh, yeah.
I put a little lecithin in it.
Mhm.
Okay.
And what works well, it works well in my tea,
Mm-hmm.
for example, because it has the lecithin in it.
Yeah.
So but mine is kind of, I've always just done oil-based stuff, so I'll have to try the glycerin.
Well, and I like that idea though, and,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you mentioned lecithin, soy
Mhm.
lecithin, or there are other types of it. Lecithin is considered to help make cannabis more bioavailable, so it's even a stronger, or it absorbs better. And so thank you, because that's one ingredient that people don't always add,
Right.
but just a little bit goes a long way. Probably Jackie.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much, a teaspoon sometimes in a full recipe, or and it doesn't change. I haven't found that it changes the flavor. Have you?
No, it doesn't, but because the lecithin is there, it blends into the tea really much better. It's,
Mhm.
yeah. So and I use sunflower lecithin.
Oh, okay. And that's the good stuff. That's what I need to get. I've learned through this, lecithin is an emulsifier, and that's its original intent. A lot of people use it with cooking chocolate, especially
Mm.
because I've screwed up some infused chocolate.
Yeah.
And so, but lecithin is a really good bet, and its shelf life is tremendous. And so, thanks for mentioning
Yeah,
that.
right on, Jackie. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I also started making suppositories.
Oh, did you? I haven't done that. I'll need to buy some little molds, because we hear tremendous stuff about suppositories, especially the absorption rate.
Yeah, it's great.
People joke it's not the party favor you bring to somebody's house, right? and people think it's a gag, but it is the absorption rate. And once again, because it doesn't have to pass through our stomach,
Mm.
and it doesn't pass through our liver,
Right.
we get a different type of high. I think you'd back me up that it doesn't get you high like an edible would,
Right.
but your absorption rate is kind of off the track. So
Interesting.
It
I'm
really
going to
is.
have to try that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's best to do it at night.
right.
I would think.
But that's cool. That's good. And we try to, as we're training retail employees, when we talk about suppositories, when we talk about infused lubes, that's we want to make sure to talk about that with employees, because if they're all shy,
Right.
then the customer's not going to get to hear about it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
we don't want a retail employee who gets nervous,
Well, you
because
don't
you gotta
Yeah.
have good information.
Right. You don't want them like sniggering, or
Yeah.
No, come on, we're grown-ups. We're putting pot up her butt and it's fine.
Mary, why don't you tell us what's your right now? Do you have a favorite recipe?
The one I had talked earlier about, those pastry covered olives. I call them green cheese olive poppers. I love those little bastards because they're like this, right? So you get flaky, buttery pastry, you get a salty olive, and then, oh, there's cannabis in it. Oh, I love those. And I also, any of the baked recipes, even though I'm not really a baker, but I've had to make myself, the chocolate cupcakes. Oh, you guys, there's an orange almond canna cake. Oh, yeah. And like I said, I love savory stuff. So I do a meatball mix that you can also use for meatloaf. I love a curry. Oh, there's a chicken curry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put pot in everything.
Well, on that note, will you show us the CBD cookbook? This is Mary's gone with a big time publisher and has this book out now, the CBD cookbook for beginners.
By me. And honestly, you guys, there's 100 recipes in this one, and there's 50 recipes in this one. What I recommend is get this one. It's on Amazon, okay? Because these 100 recipes are even better with THC. CBD is great, if your mom wants to learn about cannabis and she's scared to get high. Or if, I have a lot of friends who don't want a THC effect, but they need relief. CBD is good stuff. It's just that, you know, I'm such a fan of THC. But point is, you guys, 100 recipes and even some lovely photos. Wait, where's a lovely photo? Hang on. There's one. Chili, right? There's kale salad, salad dressing, applesauce. Anyway, oh look, there's cake. Anyway, there's a lot of really good recipes. I just want you guys to know that it isn't hard to do. You can get medicine and fun into your food. Easy peasy.
And we're happy to announce here today that we're working on a class with Mary to go online, because if you don't live in driving distance, it's kind of hard to experience this.
Yeah.
And so we're working on a class together, or we're working with you on your class, and because I don't have a whole lot to contribute, but we're looking forward to that. We don't have an exact timeline yet, but we hope to pitch it to both Seattle Central and to UNLV. And wanted you all to know as well, we're right now in negotiations with a state school in South Carolina, of all places.
Really?
Yes.
South Carolina?
In South Carolina, where I grew up, and they want to get in the game. They said our students need to know more about cannabis, so we'll try something that's good and entry level with them. But we're really excited to have Cooking with Cannabis coming online. It will be a couple months. It takes a while with the colleges to get on their academic calendar and to get in their course catalog, because they mail out the advance notice about classes several weeks in advance. But look for that. We're working on that, and we're really glad that y'all could join us today.
Yeah,
if you had any other questions, we're happy to take them. Otherwise, I know Jackie's got to roll out. Tracy, did you have any questions, or Jackie, do you have anything before you leave?
Nope, I
No,
think I'm
just
good.
yeah.
I'll get
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say how much I appreciate it.
And thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are
Thank you, and thank you both for being here. Tracy, while you're still with us, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? I know we've had an opportunity to talk, but Mary hasn't met you.
Haven't met you, Tracy. Where do you live? What do you do? What's going on? What's your story?
So, my day job, I work as an office manager at an architectural design firm. But I've been cooking with cannabis for a while now. But it really, again, it's me experimenting and just trying to figure things out. So I really love to bake. So I do. So I have not tried things like creating a spaghetti sauce or anything savory. I haven't done savory at all. It really has been cookies or brownies. So it's encouraging me to branch out and try more.
Yay!
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
You're saying condiments. I'm like, how can I make infused hot sauce? Because we use a lot of hot sauce.
Yeah.
So that's
easy.
next on my list.
Yeah. Woo. Tracy, I'm so excited. And let us know, like, if you do start making, delicious stews and soups, let us know. We'll put my email up there and stuff.
I'm sorry, what was the last thing?
Oh, I will put my email and my website up so we can communicate.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Tracy, thanks again for being here. And for you students who are watching this, we know Saturday in the middle of the day is not convenient for everybody, but that's why we record. Please come back and check us out. Saturday Sesh is a brand new thing, but the idea is to try to give these online courses a little bit higher touch, give students an opportunity to ask some questions live. Our next one we'll do 2 a month. Our first one of the month is just with me asking questions from the course materials, questions that you might have been inspired to ask or curious about. And then the second one each month, we'll have a guest. I did want to plug a book, another book for history's sake. And if you haven't read, there's a book called From Witches to Crack Moms, kind of a provocative title. But it's by Susan C. Boyd. Susan is Professor Boyd is a multiple author as well. And this book is about the way drug policy has specifically targeted women and women of color and women who are not rich women, women who
Like
live,
us.
Right.
and so it's a fantastic story or research researched a book about how drug policy has targeted women to make sure that they don't have a whole lot of power in society, and that it keeps the state in control, especially when children are involved. You know, a lot of times, especially pregnant women, and so it's fantastic. So if you're looking for something, maybe not a happy read, but super informative.
Trey, you have such a big brain. Trey always gives me all these books to read, and I'm like, yeah, okay, whoa. I mean,
but thank you, and as y'all read stuff, let us know the stuff we should be checking out. Tracy, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
Mary,
Tracy,
thank you for hosting us.
thank you for having me.
And we'll look forward to seeing you all at another Saturday Sesh.
Thanks.